This is
okay.
It's on.
All right. So we can welcome people and then we can go out. Yeah. So just we'll welcome and then we'll do a prayer and then
Greetings, everyone. Can you all hear me? Greetings, everyone. Happy Friday.
Recording in progress.
Greetings, everyone. Happy Friday. We've come to the last day of the conference. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here on a Friday morning. Just want to reiterate, because sometimes we're going so quickly that we miss some things. So I just want to recap a little bit of some of the things that happened yesterday. So we had a brilliant presentation by two young people on green energy, green infrastructure, green and blue infrastructure, and then right after that we had PLO Lumumba. And the beautiful thing about having that intergenerational conversation is one of the questions that we didn't have to ask PLO Lumumba, Professor Lumumba, is who's next? Because we saw right before young people taking the mantle and really owning the issue of control and management of the earth. So I want us to recognize that moment and what happened yesterday, some of the things that happened yesterday, because we talked a lot about narratives throughout this conference. We have to own our narratives. You know, I think someone said, you know, that West African saying, the paraphrase of it is, until lions have historians, hunters will always be heroes. So we have to be our own historians. We're going to, Judge, you want to say a couple?
Yeah, just say thank you. I'll have a prayer first, and then I'll say a few words. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So looking at the program, there may be a couple of alterations because we're just checking a couple of things. So the Somali ambassador, we're just checking because he's going to be virtual, and Obi Asika from Nigeria, again, we're just checking. So please give us a few moments, around about 5 minutes, to check that. If not, then we'll amend the program and Junaid Igal will speak and we'll bring that session maybe forward. So just bear with us about 5 minutes. And there is actually a video from Justice Lanola, a Justice of the Supreme Court of Kenya. We may try and play because that was meant to be part of the judicial independence session from yesterday. I don't want to lose that as well. So just bear with us. Charlie, just want to come up and we'll have a chat about the program. Thank you. Right, we're going to play the video of Justice Lanola, a judge of the Supreme Court of Kenya and one of the leading jurists in the area. So this is a pre-record that he sent to us earlier in the week. We weren't able to play it yesterday, so just bear with us and we'll play that. Just about five.
And in creating an accountability mechanism, sometimes a dilemma is also created. Ndele, yes. Ndele, yes. Ndele, yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this conference on challenges to judicial independence. In the few minutes I have, I'll address three questions. The first is, when we say judicial independence, we are saying independence from whom? As regards the judiciary. The answer is independent from political influence, from individuals, from crime syndicates, and other non-governmental entities. In a society led by a strong man or woman, a country without democracy, or where civil society is weak and disengaged, the independence of the judiciary is in peril. Strong men or women often behave as if they are above the law, and often these types of leaders are quick to capture the judiciary so it can do their bidding. An independent judiciary should not only resist undue influence from strong men and women, but also from those who are democratically elected in any country. Alexis de Tocqueville once said, in a democratic society, the role of the judiciary is to protect the minority from the tyranny of the majority. Tension often arises when the judiciary imposes limits on what the democratically elected executive or legislature can do, protect the rights of the minority. Attempts to pressurize the judiciary to align with the majority line can only be resisted by independent judiciary. It must also be stated that judicial independence goes beyond insulating the judiciary from political pressure, as judges are also subject to threats and pressure from litigants, including society's criminal elements. Number two, judicial independence cannot go alone without judicial accountability. It is not enough that judges be independent, they must also be accountable. At the heart of accountability is the need to curb or avoid bad behavior by judges. Judges are human, they can engage in conduct that is inconsistent with their oath of office, and like any other person, judges can be corrupt too. Accountability, therefore, is a mechanism of disciplining errant judges. The other question we may ask ourselves is, to whom are judges accountable? And in creating an accountability mechanism, sometimes a dilemma is also created. This is because whoever has the power to discipline and remove judges also has the power to influence them. It therefore follows that the creation of accountability, the very possibility of discipline, necessarily undermines judicial independence. But there are different approaches to holding judges accountable. In Kenya, the Judicial Service Commission is a custodian of all the instruments of accountability of judges. How then do we find the balance between judicial accountability and judicial independence? In doing so, we must recognize that both concepts are intended to promote fairness and effective justice, and it means that balance should be right and yet difficult to find. But they are mutually reinforcing of each other, and the need to act independently regardless of the consequences and act ethically on the part of judges must be a daily occurrence, whether or not anyone is watching what judges are doing. What are the challenges then that we see in terms of judicial independence? One is the obvious excessive control over judicial appointments. Who determines how judges are appointed? Thankfully in Kenya, unlike other countries, we have a robust appointment mechanism. The second is removal and discipline. In countries like Kenya, again, you have a robust system where the president sets up a tribunal, the judge goes to a tribunal, and the Supreme Court confirms if such a process is done well. But like I said above, it is also true that removal and discipline can be used to undermine judicial independence. Other challenges include, and this is my third point, the need for judicial financial autonomy. Without judicial financial autonomy, the executive can easily manipulate the judiciary, because he who controls the purse controls the decisions. Sometimes judiciary financing is withheld simply because an unpopular decision on the part of the executive has been made. I recall I once sat on a bench that nullified the CDF Act, and the same day Parliament diverted half a billion Kenyan shillings to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in quote, a punishment to the judiciary for that decision. The other problems that the judiciary faces in terms of enhancing its independence include lack of resources. A lot of Kenyans do not know that with the Withdrawal of Finance Act 2024, the judiciary lost not just 30% of its budget, but crucially 400 million Kenyan shillings, which was set aside for its ICT programs, including expansion of its servers and other ICT-related programs. When a judiciary is lacking in judicial financial independence, then its own operations will be hampered and its independence will be affected. Let me conclude by saying this. Navigating ensure judicial independence and accountability, addressing the challenges that are faced, require not just a crucial link between the executive and the legislature and the judiciary in terms of interdependence, but also the need for each to respect the mandate of the other without interference. It also requires that judges must be courageous to determine their decisions without fear or favor, as they do when they take their oath. They must also resist corruption and remain true to a judicial oath. And so courage and integrity must be the cornerstone of every judge's daily work. Decisions like high-profile cases attract intense media scrutiny and public attention, become politicized and viewed through partisan lens. This happens in the Supreme Court of Kenya every time it delivers a presidential
Yeah, that's it. It's on, I think. Right. Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to call up our next speaker. We're taking it slightly out of order than it appears in the program. So I think it was listed that Obi Asika would be speaking. He'll be speaking now at 11:45. And so if we can go to Junaid Egale, who's speaking. So I can ask him to come up. And just a little background. Do you want to come up? We met some months ago, and Junaid kindly had organized a meeting with the Somali ambassador to Kenya. And we got talking. My brother here is partly from West London. I have to say, little secret.
Hammersmith.
So those ends. So without more ado, very well connected, a lawyer in Mogadishu, originally in a sense from Somalia, but also from the UK. And we worked together with Junaid's expertise really as a diplomat, and we managed to get the Speaker from the Somali National Assembly to meet the Speaker in the House of Commons on the 13th of November, down to this month. And we not only did that, but we managed to bring several members of Parliament, and we met with the Commonwealth Secretariat, and we took them to the British Museum, and there is now some more things that will happen because of the work that's done by Junaid. So, big welcome, very honored and proud to work with you, and has a lot of vision and thoughts about the future of the continent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks, Peter, Judge Peter, for the warm welcome. Good morning. I am asked to speak about today decolonization, philanthropy in Africa. Indeed, this is very touchy and important subject in the sense understanding the legacy of colonial philanthropy in Africa. When you look at philanthropy in Africa in the context of multinational philanthropy organizations like it's working. How they prioritize funding local organizations in the sense of organizations like Bill Gates, when they fund projects in Africa in relation to malaria, for example. Oh, this is what they gave me. Yeah, so I didn't.
This is a point I
forward. Where do I point it to?
You just point anywhere.
It's not working, I think.
There it is. There it is.
Sorry, hold on. This is not, this side, it's not working.
Let me assist you there.
Yeah.
Go slowly down.
Yeah, I couldn't see on my screen, that's why. Thanks so much. Thank you. Apologies for the hiccup. My tablet wasn't really functioning properly. Decolonizing philanthropy in Africa is a profound shift on how, this journey calls for a profound shift in how we perceive and practice philanthropy in the continent. Number one, understanding the legacy of colonial philanthropy in Africa has often mirrored colonial power dynamics, with funding prioritized and dedicated by external donors rather than local needs. What that means is basically, if you are to receive funds for philanthropy work, instead of focusing on the needs of the community and the needs of the people who will carry out the work, often organizations will demand that you amend your proposal, your concept note, and the funding. And they will impose their own ideas rather than thinking about what the local community will need and how the local community will benefit from your work, your ideas. And often what happens is, when you look at young innovators from the continent who will come up with excellent ideas on issues that concerns their communities, they will tell you, oh, I could not get such amount of work, or my proposal and concept note was amended by the organization that was funding the project. What will happen is money will be spent to show, or no will not benefit as it should. Often also what happens is, when you look at philanthropy projects in the continent, multinational local banks or businesses will not fund or encourage people to innovate, especially the young people in different sectors, and that should basically be decolonized, or in fact we should encourage multinational companies and organizations, governments, the diaspora, to engage and assist the priorities of the community's needs, in the sense of understanding how effective the philanthropy should be conducted. Number two, sorry, it's jumping up. Apologies. Yeah. Apologies. Number two, empowering local communities. I would just take an example for Somalia. Small businesses in Somalia benefit from large pool of money from the government, and the way they do it is basically there is a trust between the government institutions and the business communities. What would happen is they will apply for a loan that is dedicated to specific projects in the community, showing that how and when that money was to be returned. Bear in mind, there are no addresses in Somalia, and there are no ways of knowing if someone was going to take the money and default. So there is a trust between the institution and the government, and to say, the least, you will pay this money back without interest for 12 months. So the communities are empowered as a result of it in the unique challenges that they face within their sector. So what happens is that people will take the money, start the business with no references, with no checks and with no guarantees, but often what happens is they will bring that money back, and then another person they recommend will get the same amount. So you have from there a community empowerment from the community, from the sense of assisting small enterprises in the community. Number 3 is emerging African philanthropy. I would put it as an example that one of the good companies who work on social reform, improvements, is a company known for being the largest company in Africa. I'm sure you guys heard of Dangote. They often sponsor very multi-aid community support. I think when you look at the companies like Dangote, you will often think, if so many companies from Africa will be able to assist the emerging philanthropy in Africa, we will have a dynamic, creative, young, innovative individuals coming up with unique ideas that can be funded. So the way forward, what is the way forward? Decolonizing philanthropy demands introspective within philanthropic organizations. We must ensure diverse representation and decision-making process and prioritize transparency and accountability. Let us look at how the social development of Africa and the continent is often very underfunded, and I think we need to commit ourselves in reshaping philanthropy landscape in Africa, equitable, inclusive, and truly reflective of our communities. Thank you. Apologies for the hiccups. Yeah.
It's a keynote. It's a keynote. That was a keynote address. He will be on a panel later to answer questions. Let's thank Junaid again for his presentation on decolonizing philanthropy. You know, it's a very, very important topic. Edgar Villanueva, we brought him to the philanthropy after he wrote his book, Decolonizing Philanthropy, to talk about many of the things that you just mentioned. And I work with 2 philanthropies, and there are large conversations happening right now. There's retrenchment happening. I know after the murder of George Floyd, there were lots of commitments made by philanthropies all over the world to the work of racial equity. In the U.S., only 3% of those commitments were actually made. So, and now with the current election, many diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives have been pulled back. Many companies, so corporate philanthropy has said that they don't want to embrace ESG or their commitments to racial equity. So it is a very, very important conversation, coupled with what we talked about yesterday around holding philanthropy accountable. So now we are going to go to our panel. That'll be led by Chalet. Chalet is going to come up and facilitate a conversation with a group of other young adults and other professionals. So we're going to move to that. then we will have our tea break, and then we'll have another keynote address, and then we'll have another panel. So that's how the morning will go. So Shala, you want to go ahead and come up?
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you again, on our third day, and I'm happy to facilitate this panel. And the topic was youth in philanthropy. I actually think it's critical that the youth, are given these opportunities to discuss about what they're doing within their communities. So I would like to introduce my panel, briefly. I think we have one online, who is Boya J. Farah, an American Somali refugee in the US, and he's a writer. He wrote the book, America Made Me Black. Could you please unmute your mic? Please unmute your mic. Is unmuted? Can you hear us? We can't hear him. Okay, as we solve the technicality, I'd also like to introduce Aisha Ilhan from Nurturing Stars organization. Could you please come upstage? We'll also have Zaytun Hassan with the organization Infitech Innovation. Will you please come? We also have Yusra Mohammed, Girls I Save Africa. We also have Mwangi Moses from Shofco. Please come. And we'll also add one of our colleagues to also come upstage. Please come. She's also from Shofco. Where could you hear us? Kesco.
Yeah, Kesco. Karen. Amaya.
Okay, as you saw that, we'll start with Aisha. We're happy to have you all here, and I'll moderate this session, and I'll ask you a few questions, easy, and don't be nervous, eh? So Aisha, you're coming from Nurturing Stars organization. Could you briefly introduce yourself and also talk?
We are all in the same continent, right? I don't know if for our virtual guests, maybe they are in other continents, so I'll just say good morning. I don't know to them if it's in their afternoon, evening, but yeah. My name is Aisha Ilhan Saziru. I'm a software engineer by profession, but I'm an ICT trainer at Nurturing Stars organization. Nurturing Stars organization is based here in Mombasa, Old Town for Jesus to be precise. What we do at Nurturing Stars organization, we foster health advocacy and career guidance. The main reason as to why we decided to start organization is that marriages for us women, which is it's true, especially for our culture. So it was kind of a bother to us, because okay, at the age of 16, as a young woman, you're not supposed to get married. Okay, it's not a bad thing to get married, but 16, it's a very tender age. You know nothing about marriage, and after all, there is life after marriage. So since I have a technical background, I volunteered. I went to the organization and I was like, okay, I have a technical background, so I'd like to volunteer as maybe technical ICT instructor, whereby, since this is like a giving back to the community, so the skills that I have, I use them to teach other young women, other young youths, especially the high school graduates, since we know like we have those people after Form 4, they have nowhere to go, since we come from different caliber of backgrounds. Not all people afford to go to universities or colleges. So we like the skills that I have, I can equip other youths, and by that they can once they gain the skills, they can do something from themselves, because we're told people perish due to lack of knowledge, right? And once you equip someone with the skill, you have opened a door for him or her. And another thing, we have the issue of maybe tuition. Most people, they don't have money to do extra tuitions, so we started it's all about volunteering. So we started this program whereby we are doing tuitions to schools, and we have impacted over 5,000 students from different class, it's a success. And yeah, we are aiming to empower more and more women. Not women, I don't know. I'm not about technical program, because the world is moving digital-wise, and once you have the skills, you can maneuver in any platform. So once you have the technical skills, you're able to maneuver in any platform. You can come with the innovation, and I believe with that you can just start something for your own. Thank you.
Thanks for that brief introduction. I think we'll get deep into the work you're doing. So I'd like to also introduce Zaytun Hassan from Infitech Innovation. Could you tell us more about your organization and the work you're doing?
Good morning. I hope you're hearing me. I'm kind of nervous, but please. Okay, so my name is Zaytun Hassan. I'm a junior front-end developer, and I love helping youth and empowering them through technology. So currently, I joined an organization which is the Infitech Innovation. I was in another organization, but then I joined the Infitech Innovation to learn that they're empowering women only, and not like, so we empower women in turning their ideas, the tech ideas, into reality. We make them have plan out in case they don't know where to start with. Our work is built on 4 keys, that is tech membership, mentorship, tech entrepreneurship, self-development, leadership, and also creativity and innovation. Today, our community consists of 100 young women who are empowered and who are interested in the technology innovations. Our vision is to aim to create female innovators, not only who are good at the tech industries, but also leadership to shape our own future, and I hope you join us in our community. I'm sorry I made it short because I don't know more about it. I just joined recently, and I hope they'll come and present themselves more. So thank you.
Wow, that's fantastic. We'll also go to Yusra Mohammed from Girls I Save. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, good morning. My good name is Yusra Mohammed, and I am from Girls I Save. So Girls I Save is an organization that encourages girls to go into STEM. And we not only do that, but also we Currently, we are building our web application where victims of gender-based violence, early marriages, and teenage pregnancies can easily reach out, and we can link them to rescue centers and counselors as well. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I'll go to farthest end with the only gentleman in this panel, Mr. Moses Mwangi from Shofco.
Good morning, everyone. Morning, everyone. My name is Moses Mwangi. I work with Shofco. Shofco means Shining Hope. The founder and CEO of Shofco is Kennedy Odede, and the headquarters is found in Nairobi, Kibra, and we have some branches in Mombasa, and Shofco is found everywhere in every county. Now we are in all 47 counties in Kenya, and Shofco deals with the society and the community. So first we assist the youths with TVETs placement. We take them to TVETs placements. We take them on this 6 months program of courses like plumbing, mechanical, engineering. We take them, we pay for them fees, we pay for them their NEET exams, then they are taught. After that, they graduate and they get a certificate of completion. And also we assist the business, those people who have business, the youths 18 to 35 years. We help them with grants, we help them with the loan, and also our loan is very good. The interest is 1%, the loan, and also after you save for 6 months, you get the loan and pay it easily. And also we do job placement to the community. If you have a job maybe somewhere, we place you in the system and we put you in the job placement. Also we offer internship opportunities. Let's say, for example, maybe you work with any organization that you do. We ask you for some documents, your credential, your academics, your school papers, and the recommenders of supervisors. After that, we'll put you to the system, and you'll get some token. Every week you'll get a small stipend to maybe your fare, your lunch. And also we also have a program called WASH. WASH means water and sanitation humanitarian. So we have the mineral water and the salt water. The mineral water is 5 bob, and the salty water is also 5 bob, 20 liters. We help the community with fresh cleaning water every day, and also we supply in different communities like Likoni, Changamwe, Jomvu, Maweni. So we assist the community with clean water, and also we do the content creation. We help the youths, those who are aspiring or established content creators. We help them, we give them the knowledge, the skills. It is a 4 weeks training. After that, you get a certificate of completion, and also there is maybe opportunity, maybe your cars, they apply. So that is it. I work as Shofco, I work as a data clerk officer. I'm also a digital marketer, graphic designer, and a content creator. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I've seen, the work Shofco is doing in one of the biggest slums in the world, in Kibra. And you'll tell us more about it once we go deep into the topic. Then we also have Karen Amhara from Kesco. Will you please introduce yourself and tell us more about Kesco?
Hi everyone, I'm Karen Amhara. I work with the Kesco organization, but like what Mwangi has said, I'm also an intern in Shofco. Yeah, so in Kesco, in full, it means Kenya CRH Care Organization. CRH is Sexual Reproductive Health Organization. Yeah, in the co-founder of Kesco is a Ben member, and I work as a peer educator. What we do, we simply bring out young youth, that is both male and female, of let's say, for example, things to do with the reproductive health, the male also should be involved in. And we also have some co-curricular activity, that is the mat making technique, and also the beading technique. Yet it's still not on board. We are still planning on that. And our aim mainly is to fight GBV. As we all understand, November has been a GBV month against GBV. GBV, in short, does not only affect ladies. In as much as the higher percentage affect women in our community, but in also one way or the other, it affects also the male. We have had cases of sodomy, and also things to do with femicide. They have been on an alert. We haven't yet identified the root cause, because we might say that a lady gets killed, and when we try to follow up the case, we clearly don't get enough maybe enough evidence. And also with GBV, you find out that girls out here, they undergo GBV in high percentage. I've also been a survivor of GBV. And also today at around 7, I shall be on the X space, and we are going to talk about the role of youth on digital media to end GBV. Yeah, and like I've said, GBV to the one who it affects, to the victim in short, it affects them both physically, emotionally, economically, and mentally. To me, if you ask me, I'll tell you it happened to me while I was still in secondary school, but I can explain to you the story as if it's just happened some few months or weeks ago. So like we really actually need to come on board and do, maybe not as one, but as a whole community in short. It can be me, it can be you. Yeah, and the teen moms in short. Yeah, because you know, if you get raped, you might get pregnant, and the baby is innocent. So like, how are we gonna come up and be able to make this young mother come into terms with the fact that she got a child, and the child is out of rape, and maybe try to assist where we can possibly, because as much as we just see them, they are maybe laughing, they also need some kind of care, some kind of love, and some kind of therapy too. So it's not just a one-day event or just one-day thing. It's a process. And I would also like to emphasize the fact that let it not just be from 25th of November to 10th of December. It's when we create the GBV Awareness Month. Let it be something that is continual. You know, like we need to have the data. Like these things do happen. Only that we just take it slightly, or maybe when their campaign is when we are out here trying to maybe fight the GBV and yeah. So far, I'm still interested about the cash that the government said allocated for the cases of GBV, and I really love to know, like, this money, where will it go and how is it gonna, like, be accountable for people who have undergone GBV? Yeah. In short, I speak more about GBV because that's the key point. You know, being affected in one way or the other, you're always on the forefront. Yeah. Thank you. We shall share more.
Thank you for that, and I'm sure you have a lot to tell us, and we'll reach out to you, even in the break sessions. So we only have one online guest, Boya J. Farah. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us where you're coming from, where you are now, and what you are doing in the country you are in?
First of all, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, that's great, because I'm looking at the screen and I'm like, I wonder if anybody can hear me. My name is Boya J. Farah. I'm a writer. Maya. Abdul Aziz reached out to me, and I appreciate him for reaching out to me. The book that I wrote about connects the Africans in Africa and the American-born Africans. There's a huge disconnect between the African-born Americans and the African-born Africans in Africa. And the two communities have been lied to in terms of like their connection. The Africans in Africa is suspected, or there's a story that didn't connect them to Africa. That's what they hear. The perception is stronger. And the Africans in America, those Africans who were born in America, also think that Africa is nothing but caves and giraffes and all kind of horrible stuff. And I wanted to bridge the divide between the Africans in Africa and the Africans in America, and that's what the book is about. It's called America Made Me a Black Man. It's basically the story of my life as an African. But I'm now in Somalia, and I'm proud of all of you at the stage. As an African, I'm proud to speak to you. I really do. I do think that Africans need to attract first their own Africans who are educated in the West. Tell them to come back home and invest. Then, if those Africans can come back home and invest or bring their knowledge, then we can attract other human beings to Africa. Africa has enormous resources. I understand the risk and the return. The risk in Africa is mostly perception. It's not based on reality. I'm in Somalia now. I'm working on sustainable energy solar system. I'm also working in building the education sector in this part of the world. I am now in my office. It is no different than where I was in America, in Boston. And so the things that I was carrying back when I was in the US, I grew up in America. I think you guys are in Mombasa. I went to Mombasa as a refugee kid in 1992. And we left it from a refugee camp called Utanga, which is right outside of Mombasa, and went to Boston, and I stayed there until now. And now I'm back in Africa to do what I can for the better chapter of my life, whatever chapters that remains. I want to be able to invest and work in this part of the world. So really, young people, Africa needs you. You also need Africa. The world is coming to Africa to invest because there are enormous energy in Africa. And so a conference like this can energize the young minds. And I would include that, attract the Africans in America who are hungry to come back, but they don't have, people like you who can actually attract them and say, hey, come back home. Home needs you. And I think that would be something powerful. I hope you get to read my book, and that will help you, attracting those Africans who are in Africa. And basically, that's who I am. I'm a writer. I'm back in Africa. I'm African. I grew up in America, and I write both continents, Africa and America. I can bridge that divide. I'm proud of all of you. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm sorry earlier I couldn't connect.
Thank you for that, Boya. Could you please stay with us for the rest of the panel discussion? So I'll get back to to the youth, in Mombasa. And I'll start with Aisha. What is your story? What made you go into philanthropy and also giving back to the community? Everyone has to have a story. What inspired you to get into this?
Yeah, just as like you said, everyone has a story or something that inspired him or her that pushed him or her to give back to the community. So at the age of 19, okay, when I was done with my Form 4, I didn't have options to go to university due to financial constraints, and obviously if there is no money to go to university, the next thing that will click to your mind is to get married. So by that time I saw that as an option, because maybe I was seeking for a refuge. So at the age of 19, I got married. Yeah, I knew nothing about marriage. I was still a teenager, but it it didn't go well. Yeah, because you're still naive, and maybe you expect this person to maybe lead you. You expect him to be a leader, and he turns out to be different or opposite. But I had a passion for technology since I was a kid. So I maneuvered through actually I had a smartphone and a network at home. So I said, even if I'm not in that university or a college, and I have my phone and a network, I can do something positive with my phone. So we have these online courses from Google, Allison's, and Coursera. I enrolled to these programs, but then I didn't have the digital literacy. So we have this organization, it's in Mombasa, it's called Pwani Techno Girls. That's where my journey started. I approached one of the board directors. I explained my story to her, how I got married due to 1, 2, 3, but I wanted to be an empowered woman. Since my mission is to empower other youths as well. So she listened to my story. I told her, I don't have money to go to college for maybe the basic computer packages, but if you can maybe give me I used to call it a scholarship, because if you're going something for free, it means it's maybe you're being scholared, right? So okay, I give her the positive reasons as to why she should consider me, and it turned out to be positive. I got enrolled in that organization where I was taught the computer packages, but then my urge to learn, after the classes, I'd still go back to YouTube. I always say I'm a graduate of YouTube because I've learned a lot with YouTube. So I'd go back to YouTube. If I don't understand anything, I'll go back to YouTube, look for this China trainers there and Hindus. You see these Indians, yeah. So I'd listen to them, and then tomorrow when I go back to class, I'd open my laptop and then try to do what I saw the trainer doing. So by that I grew proficient, and then when I was done with the packages, I enrolled to another program they have in the organization. It's called Code Hack program. I became proficient in doing HTML, creating websites using HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So I was like, do I want this to end here? So I was still confused. So whenever I'd go to a site and then I'm like, okay, there is a vacancy for blockchain, I'd apply. There is a vacancy for data science, apply. So I was like, I've applied in so many programs, and I won't blame myself, because I think it's because I didn't find my niche. So I became like, okay, in data security, I have the basics. In cybersecurity, I have the basics. But what do I want? Yeah. So I went to an event. It was in City Mall. It was a tech event. It was for Moringa School, if you've heard of it. So just your network is your net worth, right? networked with the CEO of Moringa. By then he was Mr. Niha. I explained my story to him and he offered me a scholarship where I did my software engineering for 6 months in scholarship. So I was like, okay, now I feel like I'm a learned woman. So like, what can I do with the skills that I have? It didn't stop there. I was like, okay, do I want to do more website development? So there is this, in the same organization, Polytechnic Girls, Google offered scholarships to 30 students. And since like the board of directors saw my urge of wanting to learn, I got the scholarship of doing mobile app development. And as we speak, I have an app in Play Store. It's called, Healthy Hair Routine app. It basically talks on how, as African women, you don't like our hair, especially if you have a 4C type with that coily hair. But actually, we have a crown in our head, right? It can help to maintain your hair. So I find that as a problem, and I came up with a solution, which is my app. I felt so proud of myself because I've learned a lot, and then I have an app in Play Store. I was like, oh my God, I think I'm genius. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I think I'm genius. But then my story is long, so let me get it. But for now, like I'm learning with ALX. I still I want to upgrade my studies. I was working with the organization offered me a job as an administrator, but my contract ended. So I was like, since I've done certificate, let me do my bachelor degree in software engineering. So due to the financial constraints, I decided to defer with 3 units and then go back. I know I'll get some jobs here and there, and then I can go back and pay my school fees. I'm not in a rush. I'm only 23 years old. Yes, I'm only 23, so I know I have potential. So due to based on my story, I was like, I don't want the same thing that I went through I don't want another lady to go to the same situation that I went through. And that's why I partnered with this organization as a volunteer. I don't care if I'm doing it for free or I'm being paid, no. But my mission is to empower both young men and women, because we are, in as much as we always advocate for women empowerment, I think the society has for the training, and I'm always proud of myself because when I started the volunteering program in the organization, we have impacted 100 plus. That's why I'm doing the certification, because at the end of the day, if you have done this, you must have a proof of, okay, I have done digital literacy. Where is the proof? The certification is the proof. And then we have showed them on how to maneuver in these online platforms like Upwork, and how they can maybe monetize from their social media platforms, and how they can bid for these jobs, because I have the skills, and how they can bid for these jobs. In as much maybe you've not gone to university, but you can still earn through the digital platforms, right? In some years, we didn't know like becoming a dancer on TikTok will be an income, or will bring an income. Cindy, oh sorry, I forgot you have Cindy. It means. So yeah, so like we always try to show them the positive side of being educated and being learned, and not attending university is not a crime. But still, if it's not a crime, the money that you get from these sites, you can still use them to educate yourself. Because some of us, we don't depend on our parents to get education, right? So yeah, that's my story.
Thanks for that inspiring life story, and I'm sure you're doing a journaling, you have to write it down.
Actually, I forgot. Did I tell you, like, when we started the program, we started with 3 laptops, and then when we called out for the application, almost 60 youths applied. So we were like, okay, we have the 3 laptops, and the application form, it's almost 60, like it has surpassed the limit. So like, how are we going to do this? But we were like, okay, we can take we were like, okay, we can go with the first 30, and then we can teach like 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon, and 10 in the evening. So there is this organization in Nairobi, it's called Angaza Center, where they donate laptops. Because we are not keyboard warriors, but social media warriors. We always post our work on LinkedIn. I always advise my students, like, always, it's not bragging if it's based on facts. So if you've done something small, post it, speak about it. You don't know who's watching, especially in the world of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very professional site, so whenever you post your work there, you don't know who's watching, and that's when we got recognized by that organization because of our posting. So this guy, he came to our organization, he visited us, and he was like, oh God, how are you managing to teach 30 students with 3 laptops? We're like, it's good, but but it's our determination to empower young youths. So he offered, he donated 25 laptops in the organization. Yeah. He donated 25 laptops in the organization, and when he donated the 25, after the cohort, we always call again for the next cohort. Do you know how many people applied? 100 plus. We're like, we only have 25 laptops, so how are we going to take the number, the 100 people? So we were like, okay, we're going to do 75. 25 in the morning, 25 in the afternoon, and 25 in the evening. So the remaining 75, how many are we remaining with? 25, right? We'll take them through the next cohort in January. Thank you.
I'm sure you'll need to take us while we're doing all this, we have to see it, and we also help you to put it out there, And my next question goes to Yusra Mohammed, You have the organization's Girls I Save, and as a young woman running an organization, what is the biggest, challenge you're facing, when running the organization? So I'll give you 4 minutes, so stick to the time,
Challenges are there. Challenges are many, especially if you're a young girl and, okay, you have a team with you, but still, it's hard. So I think one of the challenges is limited resources, just like my friend here, the way she said, like they had 3 laptops and Pakasahi, they have 25, right? So you'll find that you want to do something, but because of limited resources, you are limited to do what you want. So that is one of the challenges. And another challenge is that sometimes when you want to do something, you find that the community, they take it slowly. It's like at first when you say we want to do this, the community takes time, and it's hard at first to convince them that it's good, especially when it comes from from youths. So if you are a youth and you go to the community, you guys have been doing this and this, but it's wrong. We have to do this, you have to do that. So you'll find the community sometimes they are not okay with it, and the challenges that comes with that. Another challenge is burnout. So I have been not only in Girls I Save, I've been in and out of several organizations, and I'm just 19. I just graduated high school last year, and I just joined university in September. So you will find that in each organization you have a role that you're playing, and it's demanding. I remember I once went to a place, and we were talking, just having a normal conversation, and the guy told us, volunteering is not for the weak, because in as much as it is rewarding, it is also very demanding. So you'll find that sometimes you have to use your own money, and you're 19, okay, and another challenge is that when you go out, every day you're waking up early, you're out there, putting yourself out there, you're a lady, okay, and we come from conservative backgrounds, your family, they're not supportive, and yeah, I think I'm done. Thank you.
The drought was, severe, and the project was, to feed people in my home county in Wajir. So what we did is, use the crowdsourcing, platforms like GoFundMe, use Mchanga, and you put your story out there. You record videos, you write it, in Twitter, Facebook, in Instagram, through family members, and I'm sure you'll get someone somewhere who would love to support your project. So use the platforms online, and I think you'll get somewhere with that. So my next question goes to Moses. Advise the youth on choosing sustainable projects. How do they make sure their projects are sustainable? Because I've seen Shofco, your projects are usually sustainable. So the advice to the youth, even the ones here, on how to choose sustainable projects and ensure their projects are sustainable. Not even now, even 10 years to come, 20 years to come.
Thank you, Mr. So on the projects, we have a lot of projects that we assist the community. First, the program of assisting the community with water, mineral water. So we have a FUSO tanker that helps the society with fresh water. First of all it was free, but now they pay a small shilling, 5 bob. And after they pay the 5 bob, they will get the water. And also we have the tag. There is a machine that is computerized, that if you have a tag, you put it and it sends that the water comes out. After that, you are able to put some money via M-Pesa or pay bill, the amount you want, and at what time, at 12 a.m., at midday, you can fetch the water to as much as you want. Also, I would like to say to them to come up. They are saying that maybe they want money. Do you know these trainings people go? They are saying if there is allowances, but the youths, if you call them to those projects, they don't attend. But I would like to advise to the youths that they turn up to the projects. I also say volunteership. It is a very good program. As you all know, yesterday you are celebrating the Happy Volunteers Day yesterday in Shofco. So I would like to advise the youths to turn up to the volunteership and the projects. And also now we are offering TVETs placements we are taking students to the colleges, and we pay for them everything, cater for them everything. And also I'm also a beneficiary of Shofco and a volunteer. Yes.
Okay, thanks for that. So I'll go to Bora. If you can hear us, please unmute.
Can you hear me now?
World, the youth in the UK, in the US, in Germany, and we've seen, a lot of youth in the African continent, are usually sourcing for funds. So the question is, the difference between philanthropic efforts of the youth in the Western world.
In America, have confidence. The youth in Africa lacks confidence. The confidence of believing that Africa holds enough resources for the young to create jobs, and to believe in themselves, and to make it sustainable. Africa, I think perhaps all these giant companies will not work, iPhone will not work. The African young does not know, they're not aware that the humans in America and in Asia are coming to Africa because they know there's resources. But the Africans are not made aware of that this is come and look for work in Africa. If you believe in yourself, I'm talking about the African youth. And so the difference is the American young people believe in themselves and their institutions, but the Africans don't believe in their continent, and they're all going to someone else's land. My first job was cleaning dishes. And it doesn't matter if you're educated or not. You could be a doctor. You're going to start, work. Confidence is something that is needed in Africa. Hope is something that's needed in Africa. And I think we should emphasize those two: hope, confidence, and a belief in the African.
Okay, thank you. Hold on to that thought. I'll get back to you. And my question is to Karen. And that is, how can the youth, use social media for philanthropic, efforts? And if you see the recent leaderless, and I'm sure on Tuesday we are having the biggest, anti-femicide protest in Kenya. So how can we use social media?
Like in the online space, first of all, we can create awareness, or awareness to the youth. We can leverage this through the social media by use of platforms like the Instagrams, Twitter, and share information that cover up the cases of GBV, or maybe we can online spaces a lot. One can get to hear a story, and by hearing that story, the person can offer empathy and not sympathy. Because I believe that with these survivors, they don't need sympathy, they need empathy. And also through the community outreach, like seminars and maybe school program educations, you get to do the to take small videos. By taking small videos and posting them on the social media accounts, you can also reach out to more people by doing so. And also in the online space, you can also do advocacy. That is, through the advocacy, you will try to engage with the policy makers in the online space, and also support the advocacy campaigns, and try to address the GBV issues and emphasize on it in an instance whereby I don't want to use a bad term, but there should be harsher penalties for the offenders who have committed this crime, and also better support system for the survivors. We can also do this by participating in activism. That is, we organize and take part in protests and rallies or events that are focused on the GBV. And also we collaborate with the partners, NGOs and advocacy groups to amplify the efforts of creating awareness about GBV. And also from our local space, we have the safe spaces whereby this we can create peer counseling sessions, not only to the victims, but also we try to encourage these peers so that they can spread the news to other peers and try to educate the community. And also with these harmful norms, the norms that are harmful to girls, let's say for example the FGM, in as much as you are fighting issues that maybe feel like being a feminist, you are less important to the society. And also, last but not least, we need to advocate for what? For safe, let's say for safe or promote safe masculinity practices. That is, we need to tell these men and boys, the men and the boys, we try to educate them that we are ladies, and we also need respect at the end of the day. Yeah. More powerful doesn't mean you should treat me over less. Let's say, for example, maybe in houses you kind of, you maybe end up beating me, you know. And also, it's not a fault of these ladies being raped, but I always believe it's the mentality that the offender has in mind, you know, like, I want to do this. Yeah, if you get to hear life stories, you can actually feel for them, because these people are going through a lot. So they are in the online spaces, but also in our communities, we need also to educate these people. Because at the end of the day, maybe I might know the offender, but I can't just come and face you, tell you, you know, what you did is bad, you know, I tried, maybe to advise you. At the end of the day, you will find me maybe outside, and no one is there, and you might do something worse to me. Yeah, but you know, when we take the elder, we engage our elders, the elderly masculine people in our communities, and be able to get the advice. And also, last but not least, something very important that I've forgotten is that we need to engage family forums. Because at the end of the day, you get that in one family or the other, there is a victim in. And maybe we are not in a level whereby we can sit down and try to talk about GBV face to face. Maybe a father with the sons, with the daughters, you know. Yeah, because at the end of the day also, I sometimes engage with the mom. Yeah, but you will find out that I am only me with my mom. Yeah, so unfortunately, like I said, I have a dad, but we're not living together. That is one, and I'm trying to survive. You know, I always believe I'm the strongest lady on earth. Yeah, and whenever I talk, people always just applaud me and tell me, where do you get the courage? I even don't know where I get the courage, actually. Yeah, but I believe speaking it out, speaking it loud, that is our motto for the case, because speaking it loud. Because, you know, we find out, people go through these cases and they're able to speak it loud. But given a chance, we need to advocate, we need to air out what's burning inside us. And by that, you can find help. Thank you.
Truly, you are one of the strongest ladies in the world. And I'm sure keep that, believing into yourself. So my next question goes to Zaitun Hassan. And everything has a start, you know. You started, your philanthropic work maybe when you finished high school. What will you tell, the young generation who want to start, philanthropic, effort and are afraid?
Okay, so I wanted you to know that Aisha here is my mentor. The first person who I went to when I wanted to study about computer. She was in an organization, the Ponytail Girls organization. And that time I had finished high school. And unfortunately, I couldn't go to university. But then I didn't want to stay at home. I wanted to be out there so that, when you stay idle, you might find an idle mind. So I was just walking around that building she was working, and one of my friends said that there's an organization that teaches free computer, and the first time I went there, I found Aisha working there as an administrator. So when I went there, I was like, Aisha, I didn't even know her name. I just went to her, I'm like, I heard you're doing free computers, and she's like, yes. I'm like, are you guys saying the truth? Because I know the computer is not that easy, it's not free. And she's like, yeah, we are doing free computers for women, and you can join us. Something she was so welcoming that this day I take her as a friend, but then she's my mentor. Anything happens to me, I always ask her concerning take on anything. That's what I wanted to say. And another thing is, I want to tell women out there, or anyone who is having a situation like mine, that they just don't. Time I encountered Aisha, I was just roaming. My friend was working there as a secretary on that bill. Maybe you should go and ask maybe if it's free. So that's how I encountered that chance. And right now I'm a junior front-end developer, a graphic designer and a digital marketer, and I'm proud to say that it's rewarding to know that you have nothing, I haven't gone to university, but still I have this knowledge people in university don't have. And that I was also an intern in Ajira Digital. I was an intern, the 3-month internship that was going on. It was an Ajira for Share apprenticeship, and I finished my internship last month, and I'm thankful to say it was paying. It was an paid internship. So like when they ask me, are you being paid? I'm like, yes, I'm being paid. It's like, you're not going to university. I'm like, I'm good. That's why. So it's rewarding to know that you can get knowledge. It's not a must. You have to be in university. You have to, maybe there are people like the organizations, the Nurturing Stars, the Girls I Save, they have a lot of opportunities for young ladies and men too. So thank you.
So, and thanks for that. So my next question goes to, it's an open question, and it goes to the audience. And the question is, how can young philanthropists, collaborate, effectively with the older generation? So the young and the older generation, how can they collaborate, effectively? And it's open to anyone. So who would like to answer that?
Hi everyone, my name is Esha. I'm happy to have been part and parcel of this conversation. First, I wanted to let my fellow young person, I think it was Robin, that said that we are not aware of the opportunities and resources that are in our continent. We are fully aware of the resources and the opportunities that in our continent. The problem that we have or we lack is support from various stakeholders, be it government and even the outside world. And that is why you'd find some of us stagnant in the places that we are in. So it's not that we are not aware, we are fully aware. We know what our continent holds, we know the successes, but then we are requesting for fully fledged support from both the local and in the international organization to be able for us to thrive. So now back to your question. I think, and I'll give you an example for Mombasa as a context. Mombasa has, through the CSO network, that is the civil society network, it has close to more than 250 organizations. But something worrying about it is that just a few of them, that is the big organizations, are very few. Most of them are young organization like mine, which is called Her Narrative. And you'd realize that there's little support that comes top down, but most of us as young people are really willing to be part and parcel of this particular conversation. So then, can we continuously have roundtables to see areas of synergies? And you'd find that we have these organizations that have so much money, but just saying, Esha, come, I've seen that your work aligns with mine, let's sit down and see how that works, it doesn't happen. So we don't know where the problem is, but if maybe they could allow us and give us that opportunity to just sit and say, you do health, I do health, let's budget at least in a year, I'll pick one organization and ensure that we've captured them or we've supported them all through. Then probably our wobble as we want it to be, and we'd find most of these organizations fully fledged or growing, and not having organizations that are just one person, or sometimes we call sharing stories. I think our big brothers and sisters in the sector should continue sharing the stories of young-led organizations so that people can hear of them. In as much as we have pages, that is our Instagram and social media pages, without that uplift or without that support from them, then no one will actually get to hear, or maybe the audience, the smaller audience that we have will know, but now the people that have the resources and they have the opportunities will not get to know. And another one I think is we push on mentorship. Again, as young people, we one thing we'd always say that people say we lack is experience. Then for us to gain that experience, then we need mentorship programs happening so that we can learn and see the gaps that we have, and then so I think the older generation should not say that we don't want to work. We want, personally I want, like today, have the resources. So then how can we sit down and say, now that you're in this space, can we work together and forge towards together? So please, let's do that. And I am sure when now you'd have people to pass the baton to. Thank you.
So thanks for that. And we've come, towards the end of our session, but we'll have, a Q&A session that will go to our panelists, the 5 here and 1 online.
Thank you. Firstly, I just want to thank you guys for the panel. I've just been taking it in, and I really found your insights inspiring. So I just want to thank you for that. I had two contributions to make towards the question about how young people collaborate with the older generation. The first contribution I wanted to make is that I believe that as the next generation, we should. Oh, can you hear me? Oh, that's better. Thank you. Thank you. As the next generation, I think we should definitely be involved in contributing to the agenda a lot more, particularly when it comes down to what's happening within international conversations. And the reason I say that is because I think, I was quite shocked when I saw the riots happen in Kenya, arching the thing up, you know what I'm saying? And for me, that's kind of inspiring because I feel like in the UK, we play it very safe. To the conversation, I don't know if you know this, but in the UK, there's a new term coined called BAME, and that term is Black, Asian, Minority, Ethnic, which basically, it whitewashes your history and it just kind of puts you under an acronym. And I think, just seeing what was happening in the next generation, internationally, you can see how, by contributing to the agenda, you can see if you put Gen Z at the forefront of having a conversation, sometimes if you don't, that's the repercussions of that, you see things that mash up. So I think being able to contribute to the agenda on a wider level will mean things like that are happening, and things that happen in the UK, there can be more coalition and cross-collaboration. On the second point, I think you guys are youth, but I also see you as leaders. So, when I hear you guys speaking, particularly, you guys saying, oh, I'm going to university, here's my story, you're referring to yourselves as geniuses, I see that as leadership, because I think, even though you are young people and collectively, we are still have a lot to learn from those that have come before us. I really love the idea of leadership, and I think, particularly those that have already had a lot of leadership showcased through their work, I think by acknowledging the next generation as leader, I've seen the benefits of that in the UK, whereby, you can stand up in a room with people who are in parliament or people who are in these rooms, and you're not looking at them and thinking, I don't know how to contribute to this. You're thinking, I know how to contribute to this because I am a leader in my own right, and here's where I have showcased my leadership. So I think by having that perspective and being able to allow that to be shaped within our conversations, it'll make it easier for us to move forward and say, when we get to the next stage and the next generation, they're not saying, I'm just a youth. You're saying,
one question.
Just a contribution. Very hesitant as an older guy saying anything, but can I say each one of you, go to Parliament, because you will replace, displace, obliterate the men and women that are in your Parliament. So set your goals high, but your excellence, your power, and your sincerity comes across and is really impressive. I went with some of your Kenyan MPs to London to look at some museums and turned up. Please, you have no contest. So strength to you, power to you, go for it. Thank you.
Any other comment or question to the youth?
It's just to reiterate what the contributors before me said, what Judge Herbert and Akil said, is that you are the future leaders, and I'm quite proud, I'm very proud of the panelists before us, because for example, I'm from Kenya, and in the Gen Z movement, we saw how the youth can radically change this country and this continent, not only in Kenya, because the Gen Z movement hasn't only been in Kenya. We've seen what happened in Bangladesh, we've seen what happened in Mozambique, we've seen what happened in so many other countries. And what I wanted to say in terms of financing, just to draw an example from the Gen Z movement in Kenya, we saw what Hanifa did in terms of fundraising. So this is just to let the participators just know what happened is that she managed to raise 30 million shillings that went taking care of protesters who had been arrested, who had been injured, who were in hospital, and with that 30 million shillings, she was able to take care of 300 families. Not only the hospital bills, but also financing the funerals of those who passed away during the movement. And we saw what that 30 million shillings could do compared to the billions that go through the Ministry of Health, who till this day we don't know what their contribution was during the Gen Z movement. So this is just an encouragement to you to continue doing your good work, and as the speaker there said, we have so much potential. We need to look inwards and not outwards. There are many people right now who say, I want to go to the US because I'm tired of this country. I want to go to the UK because I'm tired of this country. And I think the youth are the ones who will be able to change this country and make it better for us.
So, okay.
Yeah, one last comment.
Good morning, everyone. Just a word of appreciation to the panelists today from my fellow youth. I'm really proud of you. And just as other contributors have already mentioned, the youth, we are the agents of change. The youth, they constitute about 70% of the total population. And these are the very same people who managed to vote. And by voting, we now have a new government. And this goes to say the youth, seeing you active as you are and also standing there to be able to make an improvement and also contribution, it will go a long way in changing the narrative. And please don't tire. Make sure that you also establish networks with the other youth out there who are also making a difference, because a global voice is able to make a difference. Thank you and keep it up.
I think we've come to the end of our session. I'd like to thank our panelists, the 5 here and 1 online. We'd also like to thank our listeners and the audience. And I'm hoping, that I'm sure you guys will have a chance to connect with everyone, tell your stories, and I'm sure you guys will be able to lead more change, So thank you again.
Stay here, stay here. So let's give this panel a hand. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. You can even do better than that. Yes. Yes, I mean, everything that has been said plus times 10. Very, very impressed with you being here and speaking. We need to make sure, those of us who are in the audience, that we broadcast this. Don't allow the narratives about what's happening with young people, don't allow the narratives of what's going on in Africa. This is what's going on, and this is what needs to be broadcast. So thank you for being here. Use your social media. Use the power of your social media networks to broadcast this. So we're going to continue right now. We have our tea break. So the tea will be upstairs here to the right. The washrooms are also here to the right. We're asking you to come back promptly at 11:45. We have another presenter that is going to start at 11:45. So take your tea. There are vendors outside also, so you can get your tea quickly, browse with the vendors, and please be back at 11:45. Thank you all.
social media. He qualified as a lawyer in the UK, went back to Nigeria and decided that there wasn't enough money in law, so there's far more money and music and production. And so he is a tremendous personality. And if you drop in Lagos or Abuja and mention his name, the doors will fly open. So you hear me, Obi? That's what I want to say, because when I come next, that's what I want to happen. So we are privileged to have Obi Asika here to give his thoughts on the issues that are very, very pertinent in terms of opening African borders and the way in which we can come together on the continent. It'll be followed by a talk led by Gunan and by Ade about philanthropy, and then we'll try and break dead on at 1 o'clock, so we have a good hour for lunch and networking. And then in the closing, rather than in your program, the governor of Kilifi may come to the gala dinner, but he cannot close. So we're honored by having Isaac Sasekade, who's the president of the Uganda Law Society, give the closing address at 5 o'clock today. Obi, are you online? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Tech team? Can you just check if Obi is not on yet? Can we call him? Shaban, can you give him a call? He's on. Obi, it's over to you. Thank you. He's still logging on? Redo the introduction. All right. Obi Asika, that's it. No, I'm kidding. So Obi is, as I say, one of the leading persons in his field in social media. His first claim to fame that I remember was he went to school with Boris Johnson and David Cameron, but I'm not sure that's a claim to fame. Obi, I'm teasing. And he is a marvelous host, and I just missed flying with some leading musician at the 50th anniversary of independence celebrations, which I'm still upset about, in some private jet. But anyway, it's my only chance to get to fly in a private jet. But Obi is really a leader in his field in social media, music, promotion. And without more ado, let me introduce him. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Am I live? Good morning, everybody. Peter, thank you so much for the introduction. Can you hear me? Am I being heard? Can somebody tell me?
Hear you. We can hear and see you.
Great. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Yeah, first of all, good morning to everybody there in Nairobi. Pity can't be with you physically this morning, but always happy to be talking with the band up in Africa. And Peter, thanks for the introduction. I wish I was still able to be doing music, to be the music executive, but unfortunately I find myself at the public sector. But the topic I've been given to speak to is around restoration and repatriation of antiquities in the African, context, and in terms of restorative justice. And it's funny, I was just, thinking through the whole issue, and obviously over the past, maybe decade or so, there's been a lot of conversation around restoration and around, repatriation of African antiquities, specifically, I would say, led by the conversation around the Benin bronzes, which I think has dominated the conversation. But of course, from the perspective of being African, but of course, when you really think about it in the wider construct, and you think about the great museums of the world, in a way, every culture suffers from this same issue. I was in the British Museum, the British History Museum, about 5 years ago, and I realized I hadn't been there for about 20 years, but I went there specifically just to look at the African collections, specifically the Egyptian collection, the Nigerian collection, And, just looking at the connected culture that I tend to look for in my work and in my own perspective on the world. And it was very interesting to me, for example, to see some of the masquerades from the Igbos, which is my ethnicity in Nigeria. Some of the masquerades from the Igbos directly opposite some of the masks or the maskers from the Trinidad Carnival. And of course, there's a direct link between these things, because if you're from Trinidad or Jamaica or Barbados, then and you're African, you're likely 50% or so to be Igbo. If you're, all Ghanaian or Senegalese, a little bit of mix, a little bit of Yoruba as well. If you're from Haiti or Cuba, it's 60%, right? If you're from Brazil, it's 1 in 2. Black Brazilians is actually of Nigerian descent. And what keeps happening is, I call it the Black Atlantic. You've had 250 years of two-way traffic. And for a lot of people who are not necessarily African, they don't understand that, going back to the mid-19th century, from the 1820s, 1830s, a lot of people have been moving back, earned their freedom. People who were kidnapped and translocated as Africans who were kidnapped and taken to the New World were actually also able to earn their own freedom and move back to Africa, to the African continent. And in coming back to the African continent, they've had massive impacts in terms of culture, lifestyle, medicine, music, food. And this is how things like akara move between Brazil and, Lagos, Yoruba food, Efik sounds from the Calabar sounds that go to Cuba, that come back and they are the early ruminations of Fela Kuti's music. And the way I see the conversation around African antiquity and African antique art is to think about it in terms of narrative and construct, right? To think about it in the sense that as Africans, I think Africans have suffered from erasure, from our identity being questioned and our knowledge and capacity being questioned and diminished for well over 500 years. And this is driven by a construct and a narrative that framed us in a particular way. Now that framing sometimes even becomes adopted by the people who are being framed. So you then get Africans who buy into those narratives and will tell you that, Africa never did anything, or Africa never amounted to anything. And we have a conversations which are warped because we're searching for the true history, for the true knowledge. Now, what the antiquities tell us is something a little bit different. They speak to innovation, they speak to technology, they speak to the origins of who we are and what we represent, and they speak to it across multiple ages, so to speak. Nok terracotta is 7,000 years before Christ, right? And when you begin to really dig deep into these things and understand that, the fractal equations that are used to construct and plan the town planning in the city of Benin in the 14th century, then you begin to understand that these are not primitive people. The Nsibidi, which is the written script that is known, familiar, it comes from the Ejekam people of the Cross River. But of course, because of, at that time there are no borders, so to speak, it's understood and read by the entire southeastern people of Nigeria, which sort of put to bed the idea that Africans didn't write and didn't understand and didn't progress to a more sophisticated form of communication. And of course, even if you go talk about communication and you understand the tonality of the 5/6 pattern in music and the beats, because the call and response of African music is at the foundation of all popular contemporary music today. So what I see is that people like my good friend Enot Obebo, who has been working with the Benin group, who are principally out of Germany for the last 10 years, these advocacy groups in Europe, and then you didn't see that much interest beyond the sort of elite academia and perhaps civil society leaders and art enthusiasts. At the mass level, there's still been a little bit of a disconnect in terms of this restoration. And that to me is an important conversation to have, because that disconnect has been happening because of the disconnect of what it is to be African in the first instance. Because don't forget, and let's not get it twisted, part of the reason why this even happened in the first place is because in colonial conquest and the advance of new religions into the continent, part of the justification or validation of the new religions was to diminish what they meant, which is the essence, the spirituality, the sort of world So whether you're Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, it doesn't really matter, the 200-300 tribes in Nigeria, everybody has their own origin mythology, everybody has their own construct of how the world was formed, and that's just how humanity is. Every single element of humanity has those things. One of the unfortunate things that's happened as a legacy of colonial history is that in Africa, we literally jettisoned our own, whereas you will see that in India and in China and other parts of the world, they did not. Because Africa is not the only place that was colonized, it's not the only place that suffered or had to deal with European aggression. This is just something that I think the world went through. The world went through 1,000 years of war in Europe as well, from 1,000 years of war in Europe. So the construct of history means that it's extremely important that we reclaim what we own, what we built. When you're walking through the British Museum and you look at Tutankhamun's tomb and you look at all the artifacts, that's the first time I said, well, obviously Pharaoh was black. I don't even see why it's a conversation. But part of the reason why it's not a conversation is how do you take that history and bring it into contemporary culture in terms of communication and literature and films and movies and music. But that's what I meant about narrative in the first place, because these narratives are being driven and run by people who are actually, how would I put it, who are actually influenced by the narrative that is pushed by the colonizer in the first place. Now, what has happened and what this has meant is that in actuality, then at the mass level, there's that disconnect, because the religion that they're practicing or the gods they're following, the new gods they're following, tell them that these Africans have energy, and therefore they are not able to activate them. So that in itself is something that as Africans we will have to deal with, and you're bringing these things back, but then who's going to go and see them, right? How many people really appreciate what these things are, and how many are not afraid of themselves? Because that's something that's really important in this conversation of restoration. And in terms of restorative justice, it really shouldn't even be a conversation. The thing is, if you're Egypt or Greece and you are very happy to see your culture displayed worldwide in the biggest and best museums, that's great, as long as you're getting some kind of revenue or royalty from those pieces that have been. The rest of us don't have that luxury, but it is wonderful sometimes to see our pieces magnificently mounted in some of the greatest buildings that the world has built. But there's still a feeling of dislocation. There's still a feeling of these pieces remain inanimate. Our pieces typically in the African context have some agency in terms of spirituality, of African motifs of kingship and leadership. And therefore they are inanimate, but they only become animated when the adepts, those that have knowledge and shall I say some sort of level of capacity in these areas, engage the pieces, and then they become animated. And that again is something that's different about the Africans, right? Our own relationship with the world and the cosmologies that we represent and that we come from also define how we see art. And that can be seen in numerology, in mathematics, in science and technology. And I think one of the big things about antiquities is that they remind us that Africa is not just the home of man, it's also the home of technology, the birth of innovation, because North Terracotta, Ibuku, in Legia, and a place called Nsukka, where iron ore is first sort of discovered on the planet, and one of the places where man first began to control metals and bend it to its own will, to his own will. And it is the way that Europe has framed Africa that has made us forget, let alone anybody else even try to remember, that we came first on everything, that we did everything first. This is something that I think, as a part of self-awareness and self-realization, is important for Africans, especially young Africans, to know that innovation in Africa didn't start in 2010 with the startup movement in Nairobi or in Nigeria or in Cape Town. Innovation in Africa started maybe 10,000 years ago. And when you look at it from that perspective and have that breadth of view of history, then the conversation on restoration becomes even more important. Because what is restoration really? Restoration is not just reclaiming the pieces. Restoration is also about reclaiming narratives. Restoration is also about reclaiming knowledge. Restoration is also about empowering yourself to say and to understand the capacity of what you hold within you and what your people have done before you. I think when you bring all of that together, then you're really able to own the conversation and take it to the people and have the people buy into the future. The future that I would envisage and would love to see is a place where empowered Africans are at home with their own legacies, their own cultures.
I think they have a backup. So let's reconnect. Hopefully.
Did I go off, or have I?
Yeah. No, it was park at this Mombasa end. So you're back on live. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So I was just saying that in terms of for Africans, especially for young Africans, I think it's about in creating situations where they can have ownership of the conversations, ownership and understanding of the pieces and how they are connected to these pieces. Because these pieces that we talk about, these African antiquities, are not random. They're not just objects of art. They're typically pieces that represent the culture. The slave owners, not the slavers, not the slaves, who will tell you about that as well. So whilst I think it's important to advocate for these things, I wouldn't live expecting it to actually happen. If it were to happen, that'd be a great victory.
There is definitely a problem on Mombasa end, so can we just have a chat with some of the technical team done? Because it really is causing a significant problem. Any rumours that it was Nigeria is not true. It was definitely Mombasa. So let me scotch that one straight away.
Okay, so I should just stay quiet then.
We can.
Right. I was just saying that.
Sorry, our apologies this side, Obi. We had another cut, so we're just trying to find out from the technical team what the problem is and if they can rectify it.
Okay, so I saw Robin say they could hear me in the UK. I don't know what's happening in Nairobi. Quiet.
Please continue.
Pardon?
Continue, please.
Okay. Yeah, so let me just finish up by saying that from my perspective in terms of restoration, I think it's worthwhile for Africans to continue to advocate and for other people as well, because restoration.
Apologies, there seems to be a problem with the power is going this end, and then the generator kicks in and cuts the link. So let's have one more go.
Okay, so yeah, so just to say that, well, I hope you can hear me now, and if you can't, it's a pity.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
I wish. Pardon?
We can hear you.
Okay, all right. No, I was just saying that just for the young, not that the older people are not important, but I think what is key is how to get more people at the mass level involved and engaged and connected to the essence of African antiquities, what they mean, project who we are with our own stories, with our true face, and not with a sort of warped version of who we think we are. I think when we're able to connect those dots, then we'll be able to create the spaces and places.
We lost you again.
The Ghanaian architect is behind that project, and I think MOA is something that hopefully is a great case study of what can happen in terms of restoration and how to deal with. In Benin, which is opening soon.
I think, sorry, I think we're losing the signal again, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, it seems like we're letting us down today.
Yeah,
sorry to hear.
Sorry, can you just repeat that last sentence if we can?
Yeah, I was just saying that Emoa, which is a museum designed by Sir David Ajayi in Benin City, was setting up as a receptacle to receive returned artifacts, not just Benin bronzes, but it's a great case study of what could happen and how Africans can engage and really bring the community into the process and into the conversation. I think those are the important things to think about how to animate young people, how to get, then they can connect and they can take it to their own communities and take ownership. At this point in time, I still think it's a little bit of an elite conversation on the continent within the different pressure groups, but that's still important. But what I would like to see is, and to close the gap between those who are disconnected from these pieces because of their religion, their social habits, or their present culture, which has taken them away from their original culture. That's really what I would like to end with. Thanks a lot for having me.
And just to make clear, Obi is actually chair of a significant parastatal in Nigeria dealing with arts and culture. So actually is a very impactful person in continent for actually implementing what he's just discussed. So thank you again. One round of applause, please. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man. Thank you. Thanks you. Have a good deliberations the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So just one postscript before I introduce the final panel for this in Cambridge in April and May of this year. We're followed by visits to the National Museum of Ethiopia, and also to the National Museum of Botswana. Botswana's in the house. So all of those places where we had a discussion, they wanted to come together. And there is actually an international institute about what happens in the Northern Hemisphere. So we're currently having a dialogue about the absolute necessity of having an association of African museums, which serves the purpose of Africans and not talks about the remainder of the 98.5% of artifacts which were stored in basement. We've infiltrated a meeting by the British Council that's going to be held at the National Museums of Kenya, maybe September, but it's 3 days in July, where we want to invite anybody to be speaking about healing within philanthropy. But they might correct me because I might have got that wrong. All right, over to you.
It might be easy just to use one mic. I feel like this one keeps on. Yeah, some feedback. Is it still morning?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. So if you were here on day one, we kind of touched on philanthropy and healing centres, philanthropy through Ade's keynote speak. Was that yesterday? That was yesterday, yeah. So this is like an extension of that. So let's read the philanthropy. What does a healing centred approach look like?
Thank you for the question. So I spoke a little bit about trauma yesterday, and a lot of philanthropy is trauma informed. So what that means is that philanthropy asks, what is the worst thing that is going on? That's what we want to support. And so if you are actually solving problems, what Healing Centered Philanthropy is centered on is solving problems. So it wants to address the thing that's going on, and so it looks at those that are most impacted. It disaggregates data, and so when I talk about disaggregation of data, if we just say, in case going on in this, in the Atlanta public school system, using that data on its face, you can say there's a lot of improvement. But the gap between that data on its face, you can say there's a lot of improvement. But the gap between black male students and white male students is still 20%.
Thank you. I think what about your keynote speech yesterday was our version or interpretation of what philanthropy is, because obviously from a UK perspective I always think it's centered around money, but actually you mentioned philanthropy from a cultural sense is where we should be coming from. So can you elaborate on that?
Sure. The definition meaning in the presence of others. And so when we think about like defining what philanthropy is, if that is my philosophy, then me doing something for someone else is actually doing something for myself. Yes. It's not me, it's not external. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of times from the Western construct, it's an external thing, like I'm helping these poor people. I am African.
Rustle something up, so it actually rustle something up, so it actually make me think a lot. Even when we went through racism, she would say, your hate for me is hate for yourself. You don't love yourself, because if you love someone else, you would not have that kind of hatred in your heart. I help, that white savior syndrome. So how can we in this room create more awareness around the importance of a healing-centered approach when it comes to philanthropy and the work that we do?
So we talked about sharing, using our platforms, our individual platforms. If you have a dog, and you raise it around, no. Talk about sounds. We parrot or we mimic culture with relate. And what the media does is they just rely on tropes. They rely on existing narratives. So they'll say the conflict between Israel and Palestine, they'll look at October 7th. They won't look at what happened decades and decades before. So it's just, in response to this one thing, this is what's going on. So I think that it's challenging allowing people to go deeper, to really kind of set context when stories are started, and not just, this is, there's a thing in media, I think, that says, if it bleeds, it leads.
Like trauma?
Yeah, dog bites. But I see media to kind of act a little different. So amplifying those opportunities and those examples of people who are doing it well.
Yeah. And that's so true. I think we
gave these durable medical cuffs that women wore 24/7 that tracked their blood pressure, black women in Georgia, throughout Georgia. What we found as a result of the study was that 2 of the women, their blood pressures, they found that 8 of black women deaths were preventable. And so what they did was, in Georgia, actually not a system that covers insurance, added that to the list of things that could be covered. So now everyone throughout the country can have these durable medical cuffs as a result of work that was done for black women in Georgia, 20 black women in Georgia.
Yeah. And I always say, if we can get black women right, we can get everyone right.
Absolutely.
And people think we're overestimating that.
Greetings, everyone, and especially to both of you. Thank you for this opportunity. That has started a program. It's under the safety heading. But one of the things that has come up in some of the meetings is people from the diaspora, the historic diaspora, so like me and you, from the US or UK who are coming to Africa. Oftentimes there are a lot of misconceptions.
We're very small. We are extremely small. We punched above our weight, in a sense, and that we haven't even raised $1 million yet. I know that may seem like quite a bit of money, but that really isn't that much money for philanthropy, and we've given out most of it. So what we have tried to do is demonstrate our practices, and when we're having conversations with other philanthropists. After he found out that he could have done the same thing in Ghana, he was very upset, but that's another point. So we're in Italy. I'm in Naples. I'd never been to Italy before. Had no desire to go to Italy. That's just not, I know a lot of people want to go to Italy, want to go to France. That ain't me. And so I'm about to get on the train, and I don't know which train to get on, to get down. I don't speak the language. And their mentality has to be, when we come to a new country, have we done the expectation be? Yes, we were taken from, yes, we had this experience, and there's still a culture that's there that we haven't learned yet, that we have no appreciation for, and you use the word, we romanticize it. I don't romanticize anything. I ain't Roman. What does it called to become Greek? To be Hellenized. I ain't Hellenized. I want to be in my right African mind. And so to that point, that means that we got to slow people down. So when people want to come over, let's slow them down and say, do you speak Swahili? You're going to a Swahili speaking country, you don't speak Swahili. And mind you, there. Because I'm into Nigeria. I tell them, don't go to Nigeria if you don't know anybody there. Or your experience is not going to be a pleasant one. If you show up in Lagos, I show up in Lagos with my uncle and the police are like, hey. So if you don't, but I wouldn't go to Detroit without knowing somebody. I wouldn't go to LA without knowing somebody. And so I think we have to have that same mentality of, slow down for a second. I know you want to come back. Who do you know? And that's an African practice. When we used to, that internal work that we need to do on both sides. And that's not excusing people from abusing and taking advantage of us.
Thank you so much, Adi. It's more of a contribution. Thank you so much, Adi. It's more of a contribution, which, whereas Peter, he doesn't like my contributions, but never mind. It's just resonated. The first time I went to Nigeria from the UK, I just decided, because in my mind anyway, Nigeria should be one of our major leaders, and I wanted to go. And so when I told my Nigerian when I told my Nigerian friends in the had a circle of people just to call, and I just think it resonated, because that's what I did when I went to Lagos for the first time. Thank you.
Are you allowed to ask a question as the organizer?
Just a statement, but I'm contentious, Adi. I have to disagree. Because actually,
you can disagree
over where we go. If we don't, yes, there were places we feel uncomfortable, but you have streetwise, street sense, and you make connections and friends. So my brother and I went to Ethiopia. Neither had I been to Ethiopia before, but we were cool. So I have it about our mindset, and I don't say when I drop somewhere. Hey,
yeah,
no.
So
wait, Adi, let me get him.
A woman to do the same thing that you're doing.
But also, he's got
a woman to do the same thing that you're doing.
But also, he's got light skin privilege as well. Yeah, let's remember that. He's got light skin privilege, you know. And I say that because my mother's light skinned, and I used to have to tell her about herself, because you can do whatever. Go, no, but you're light skinned.
Yeah.
It's different when you're a dark skinned black woman. It's different when you're a white woman. When you travel, I've been with white friends, and if they need help, they'll get help like that. Like that police officer would have helped my white friend, my white female friend. Yeah. But then if I would have asked them, the response probably would have been the same as you.
Yeah.
You know, so I've had to, as a traveller, I've had to go anywhere. So I've seen discrimination when we've travelled to different parts of the world, and people won't save them, but they'll save me. You know,
it's just an experience. Since I moved out from London, since I moved out from London back in 2011, my biggest advice to any African person who's from Africa descent coming back to the continent is to have a plan.
Yes.
Without a plan, if you drop in this.
So I left where I was and I went. But I had
tickets, and you'll go down to the regular place. You all know the plan by now. Thank you so much.